let's throw 100 coins in the air, 100 pennies. What's the probability that they will all turn out heads? Mathematically, that's 1/2 to the 100th power. You would have to throw those things in the air 2 billion times a second, and in 2 billion years you have less than a 1% chance that they're all going to turn out heads. When I was in zoology a lot of years ago, I was told that you could put a monkey in a cage and give it a typewriter, and in time it would reproduce all of the sonnets of Shakespeare. Well, you know, I didn't believe that then, and I don't believe it now. A number of years ago, I found a book on mathematics and probability, and they told this very story. And they said, let's look at it scientifically. What's the probability that the monkey could do that? Well, we gave the monkey a typewriter. Now, in this typewriter, we just say that the typewriter's got 30 keys. Now, the monkey, he's got 1 out of 30 that he's going to hit T. T-O. I don't want the sonnet of Shakespeare. I want the soliloquy of Hamlet. To be or not to be. And I don't want even that. I just want to be or. T-O space B-E space O-R. 8 variables. 30 keys. 1 out of 30, he'll get a T. Okay. Mathematically, 30 probabilities, keys, 8 letters. What's the probability to do T-O space B-E space O-R? Well, it is 30 to the 8th power. And if you don't understand mathematics, and I didn't a few years ago, but that number is extremely large. You take 30 and times 30 times 30 times 30, 8 times. And that is approximately the number of seconds in 20,000 years. So if he hits 1 key a second in 20,000 years, there's a probability that one time he would do T-O space B-E space O-R. Now I throw probability into Joseph Smith. I give Joseph Smith the same probability as the monkey in the typewriter, that he can make up these characters that are on this Professor Anthon paper. Now there is, 200 characters on this page, close to, that turns out to be an authentic paper, authentic written language. And I count those up, and then I count up cosmic poetry, and I give him, on these lines of cosmic poetry, a 1 out of 30 that he made them up and did it right. And then I do the same with the river and Nahon and some of these other things that just happen to fall in place. And so I give him a 1 out of 30, and I count up 250 of these things. And so I say that Joseph made him up and did it right at 30 to the 250th power. 30 times itself 250 times. Now, the number of atoms in the universe is 10 times itself 81 times. And now if you think that Joseph could have made this up, what I want you to do, I want you to write a story about ancient Tibet. Why do I say Tibet? Well, you know about as much about ancient Tibet as Joseph knew about ancient America. And I want it to be an ancient Tibetan, include an ancient Tibetan proverb. And I want it to be written in the Tibetan language. And after you have written it in the Tibetan language, I want to take it to the Dalai Lama and let the Dalai Lama read it, and he says, so very wise old Tibetan proverb. And if you can do that, Joseph can be a fraud. Give it a try. Faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, you know, I used to think that was a hokey-pokey explanation. I used to not like that, until I thought about Charles Lindbergh. Charles Lindbergh had faith that he could fly his airplane from New York to Paris. And the reason he did is because he gassed that baby up and he took her off and he flew in circles. Until, had those circles been a straight line, he would have been there. So he had substance of things hoped for, evidence of a task not yet accomplished. So to me, the things substantiating his story are evidence of things hoped for, substance of things not seen. Now, after you receive these things, receiving them is not enough. Testimony based on just the things that you see and feel is not enough. You have to have a spiritual manifestation if the Joseph Smith story is true. So here is a man, picture of a man. I'm saying that after he has heard the Joseph Smith story and he looks at the evidence that surrounds it, he has to ask God if it's true. He has to ask God with pure intent, purity in heart, and really desiring to know. And then a mysterious things happen. That's the strength of this church, because there are literally millions of people who will bear you testimony of their own personal revelation of the authenticity of the Joseph Smith story, and that this is the Church of Jesus Christ on the earth today. Now, we can tell you that. We like to wrap it up in a little box and give it to you, but that doesn't work. I can give you the information, but you have got to do the research and then ask God if it's true.